Gotta thank Yahweh for being the chosen seed of Israel. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of the Yah and the faith of Mashiach. Whoa, yeah. I gotta thank Yahweh for being the chosen seed of Israel. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of the Yah and the faith of the Mashiach. Yo, yeah, whoa.
Shalom, Zion. So we're going to do a continuation from the last video I did called the New Testament Gentiles, but this one is going to be called the Northern Scattered Lost Tribes. So we're going to get it a little more detail as far as the location of the northern tribes and where they were scattered to, and the areas that Hamashiach, Paul, and the apostles traveled to in order to reach and minister to the lost scattered northern tribes. And you're going to learn that the northern tribes were all over the place. They were mixed in with the Greeks. They were mixed in with the Roman army. They were occupying in different religions. I mean, it was a mess. And just like today, how many of our people are caught up in all sorts of things. You got people who are caught up in Islam, thinking they're descendants from Muhammad. You know, we got people, a lot of our people caught up in Buddhism, all kinds of religion. Just like today, you have many of our people in the U.S. Army. And just like you got many of our people in the French Army, our people that scattered to the four corners. So we are just now waking up, Zion, and we still have a ways to go as far as our people coming to the light. And more of our people are waking up, not just here in the United States, but all over the world. The Bantu tribe is waking up. All our northern scattered lost tribe brothers and sisters are waking up. I mean, it's amazing, Zion, just seeing all of this take place right before our very eyes. So we're going to really dig into the word on this one and get an even clearer concept of what's going on and directly who this ministry was really for. And you're going to see it even clearer. All right, so let's go ahead and dig into the word. And we're going to dig deep. So go ahead and turn your Bibles to 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 1. And now I'm going to show you several translations because I want you to see the unique wording of this. So I'm going to start with the Sefer first. And we're going to start with verse 1. We're going to just read verse 1. And it reads, Kepha, an apostle of Yahusha, Hamashiach, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. Now, something I want you to look at that has thrown so many, millions of our black Christian brothers and sisters off. So when it says to the strangers scattered throughout these places, now who do you think that's talking about? Because growing up as Christians, coming up in the church, we looked at that and we automatically thought it was talking about your modern day white folks of today, your heathens. And so we always adapted that ruling that, okay, this was talking about everybody. And that's what the whole concept of where you know how you heard growing up in the churches that the message went to the Gentiles, went from the Jews to the Gentiles. But that's always been a misconception because of the misunderstanding of the translations. But once we begin to understand and study and you begin to know about the splitting of the two kingdoms and you know what's going on in the Old Testament, then these wording begins to make sense to you. And then you start to realize, wait a minute, these are our people. This was talking about our people. But what I want to show you is I'm going to show you a couple of translations and you're going to see the difference in the wording. And for edification purposes and transparency, I'm going to read these different translations as is. So just bear with me because we have a little bit to go through here. So let's look at where we're going to be reading from the AMPC Bible, still in 1 Peter 1. So I want you to just look at the different slightly how it's revised. It says, Peter, an apostle, a special messenger of Jesus Christ, to the elect exiles of the dispersion, scattered. So it's interesting how you see this word here and how it's worded. It says, to the elect exiles of the dispersion scattered or sowed abroad in these different places. Now, one thing I want you to pay attention to, these two words, elect exiles. Now, that's actually the correct translation according to the Septuagint, but it's going to get even interesting. So let's go ahead and read it from another different translation. So this one is going to be from the CEVDCI. You know, it's crazy, Zion. They got so many different translations. There's over 50 different translations of the Bible. Can y'all believe that? And all this was done purposely just to throw us off, to try to throw the true children of Israel off. So let's look at this again. It says, from Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, to God's people who are scattered like foreigners in these places, who are scattered like foreigners. Very interesting. And notice when we read in the Sefer, and then when you read in the King James Version, it's going to say strangers. But here it's foreigners. Now, people will say, well, that's the same thing, but it's slightly different in its context. But when we read it from the Interlinear Bible, you're going to see even a clearer translation of this verse. So when we talk about the northern scattered lost tribes, in this context of this verse, it really starts to make sense. Now I can see how the northern tribes who are scattered through these areas were truly the Most High's people, and how they were so caught up in idolatry and all kinds of paganism. Just like us today. I mean, it's like a split. It's like our people today, Zion. It's like a split image of what was going on during Hamashiach and Paul and the Apostles' time. A split image, like a mirror, just reflecting one another. Same thing is going on, man. This is incredible how history is repeating itself. Now, what I want to do now, Zion, is I want to show you a book I bought 22 years ago. Y'all hear me? 22 years ago. It's called the Interlinear Bible. It's the Hebrew and Greek translation edition. Very powerful. And I've had this book for a long time. So I want to show you the translations from 1 Peter 1:1 and show you what it actually says in here so you can see it. Book still looks good because I keep it up. I take care of all my old books. So we're going to open this up, and I want to show you something. I want to show you something with your own eyes because you got to see this. I mean, this stuff is amazing. And so when you look at it, this is how it's laid out and everything. I know it has the translations there. It has the numbers you can look up in the concordance and what have you. So, all right, so let's look at the translation here. And excuse the wiggling because I had to magnify it. It says, Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, to the elect sojourners of the dispersion of Pontus in these areas. So the dispersion, the sojourners of the dispersion. So you see how more clear it starts to become. And then it's going to say the same thing. I'm just showing you the layout here. And you can look at some of the numbers here. The wordings. I don't know if you all can see that or not, but it reads the same thing as I read in the column. So, but just to give you an idea of the whole translation, that's why we have to go beyond the translations, because a lot of times many of our people read as is and they don't go further beyond the translation. That's why so many millions of our people are confused and thrown off when they see words like Gentiles or strangers, that's referring to the gospel. When in reality, it's actually talking about the lost scattered tribes, the northern tribes that was scattered throughout parts of Africa, what is known as the Middle East and the Mediterranean islands of the sea. So we're going to get into the locations of our northern scattered tribes. But before I do, I want to share something with you. Now, some of you may be asking, well, why in the world are there so many different translations of the Bible? Well, this was done purposely for one reason, to deceive millions. Now, if you study history like I do, And you all will be familiar with papal Rome. You had pagan Rome, and then you had papal Rome during the latter part of the Roman Empire that controlled, there was the religious state system that controlled the whole state. So no matter what these popes or how much they try or try to attempt to alter the Most High's word, they can never do it because the Most High would not allow them to, because the words of the Most High would never come back void. And what is the biggest day that everybody goes to church on? A Sunday. Sunday. That's a whole nother lesson. Now, have any of you ever read or heard of the Roman Catholic Catechism? Well, this Roman Catholic Catechism is their main source of authority for the Roman Catholic Church. And in this, they claim to have authority over the scriptures because they believe that Peter was the first pope. But they're getting ready to be in for one hell of a surprise, a great disappointment, because hellfire is awaiting these wicked heathens. And everything that they've tried to do to attempt to even just mingle and try to change the Most High's word with all these different translations, they won't be able to do it. They will fail. And in this Roman Catholic Catechism, they even admit that they authorize Sunday as a day of worship. They admit this in this catechism. This thing is wicked as all get out. And they are bold with it. But you know what? They're not going to ever be able to come against the Most High because the Most High is awakening his people. And nothing will stop it. And that's why when we have so many different translations, and when you go back and read stuff like this that's stated in 1 Peter 1, that's why so many people get confused, because this was designed purposely to throw our people off big time. Instead of having the right translation that was representing the lost northern tribes, you put certain words in there to make millions of people think that it's talking about heathens. It's talking about anybody. And that's where this doctrine comes from. Everybody can be saved doctrine. It was a doctrine that was designed and purposely implanted. The Bible said this would happen in Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25. It says, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hands until a time and times and a dividing of time." They will think to change times and laws. When you go read that Roman Catholic Catechism, they admit that they have the authority to change the scriptures and the laws. That's why so many preachers are preaching that the laws are done away with when no such thing has occurred. That's man's doing. The Most High has only made a covenant with the house of Israel and none other. The Most High said he does not change. Malachi 3:6. It says, "For I am Yahuwah, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed." Why would the Most High break his covenant with his people and all of a sudden give it to another when he's never made a covenant with another people outside of Israel? So now let's go ahead and get some more detailed scriptures concerning the northern scattered lost tribes. So I want you to turn your Bibles to John chapter 10 and verse 16. John chapter 10 and verse 16. Because I want to read something else to you that a lot of people get confused when they read it. So it says, "And other sheep I have which are not of this fold." Read that again, that first part. "And other sheep I have which are not of this fold. Them also I must bring." Now he's calling them sheep. Why is he calling them sheep? It says, "And other sheep I have which are not of this fold." Who does the Most High always reference when he's referencing sheep? His people. What does sheep have? They have that woolly, nappy, curly hair, that wool. And we've always been considered as sheep. So And other sheep I have which are not of this fold, them also I must bring. What is he talking about here? He's giving us the answer. He's giving us what's happening right here. He's going to bring what? Bring who? And they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. A lot of people miss this. Millions of our black Christian brothers and sisters skim right over this, and it goes right over their heads. And they read this and home in on this and automatically think that it's talking about everybody. Then they reference John 3:16. But without understanding the Old Testament and have no knowledge of the kingdom, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, and why the northern kingdom was given a bill of divorcement and how they were grafted back in, as I explained in the New Testament Gentiles, this verse is not going to make sense at all. You're not going to understand it in its entirety. So now I'm going to read it over one more time, and I'm going to show you what Hamashiach is referencing. It says, and other sheep I have which are not of this fold. Well, why are they not of this fold? Because eventually they were cut off. Now they have to be grafted back in because they're lost and scattered. Now, why am I focusing on the northern scattered lost tribes? Because during that time of Hamashiach, Paul and the apostles, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were already in Jerusalem. They were the ones who were bringing forth the gospel to their lost brothers and sisters. All right. So let me finish up here. Them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Where did we hear this before? Hamashiach is referencing Ezekiel chapter 37, and we're going to go there in a minute so we can prove that fact, because we're going to unite. The Most High is going to unite the northern and the southern kingdom together when he comes back. Because right now we're still scattered. We are still scattered. The kingdom is still divided. It's been divided ever since it was split. And we have never come together since. And it's been so long. Now what I want to do is we're going to go to Ezekiel chapter 37, and we're going to get the witness to John 10:16. But I want you to do me a favor, Zion. Write down this right quick. One fold, one shepherd. All right. I'll repeat it again. One fold, one shepherd, because that's going to be key when we read Ezekiel chapter 37. So you will see with your own eyes that this is all referring to his people, his scattered people. All right, go ahead and turn to the book of Ezekiel chapter 37. Now, I know we covered some of this in the last lesson, but we're going to take it a step further because we're going to get even deeper, and you're going to clearly see that this is referring to his people. So go ahead and turn to the book of Ezekiel chapter 37. And for the sake of the lesson and for edification purpose for the new believers, I'm going to read it in the King James Version. So we're going to go ahead and start with verse 19. It says, say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, because Ephraim was the lead tribe of the northern kingdom, and the tribes of Israel, his fellows, talking about the northern kingdom, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah. Who's Judah the lead tribe of? Judah, the southern tribe, and make them one stick. Now, remember I told you to write down these words, one fold, one shepherd. Make them one stick, one fold, and they shall be one in mine hand. And who's going to be their shepherd? It's going to be the Most High. And see, this is how you know we're living in the last days. Because when the Most High comes back, that's going to be a glorious day. And he's going to join the southern and the northern kingdoms, and he's going to put them all together and make them one. Y'all hear me, Zion? One. That's why there's only 12 gates. when it talks about that in Revelation. 12 gates, not 13, not 14, only 12. So it goes on to say in verse 20, and the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thine hand before their eyes. So Zion, he's going to unite, and we're seeing that right now with all our brothers and sisters waking up all over the world. And I mean, it's phenomenal. And this is not a movement. This is a awakening through the Spirit of the Most High. The Black Panther was a movement. The Black Panther movement that was going on back in the 60s, that was a movement. The civil rights was a movement. The Marcus Garvey followers was a movement. All that stuff was movement. But this is an awakening, Zion, that no one can stop, that no man can stop. All right, let's get some more evidence that he's going to join his chosen people together. So let's look at verse 23, still in Ezekiel chapter 37. It says, neither shall they defile themselves anymore with their idols. Because what happened with the northern tribes? Why were they cut off in the first place? Well, I'm not going to say cut off, but why were they given a bill of divorcement in the first place? Because of their idols. Judah was doing the same thing, but you know, Hamashiach had to come through the line of Judah, so they could not be cut off. They had to have that line open. So idol worship was the cause. All the 12 tribes, we just jacked up and still jacked up now. But our people are getting back to it. It says, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. Watch this. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places. Wow. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places. Where are we dwelling at right now, Zion? All over the world. Where were the scattered tribes dwelling at during Hamashiach's time? It was parts of Africa, what they call the Middle East today, and the Mediterranean Sea. It says, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people. What? They shall be my people, and I will be their God. One fold, one shepherd. One fold, one shepherd. Join together, my people, and I will be their God. He's going to make those two sticks one, Zion. And that's what Hamashiach was referring to in John 10:16. But let's dig a little deeper. Let's get even clearer guidance from the Ruach. So now jump down to verse 26, still in Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 26. It says, moreover, I will make a covenant. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. So this covenant that the Most High has already made with us is going to continue forever. Now, I'm going to show you something else. We're going to go to we're going to go to Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 8 in a minute, because there's this misconception that the Most High made a new covenant, but it's not the same covenant as the old covenant. But I'm going to prove to you that's wrong, because it was the same covenant with our forefathers. The only difference was the generation is new. It was our generation today. But I'm going to show you some key words to look for, because he will make a new covenant with us, but it's going to be in the wilderness. And I'm going to prove that to you when he causes us to pass under the rod. So it's the same covenant, Zion, that was made with our forefathers. The Most High has never broken his covenant with us. It was us that broke the covenant. We went astray. We went after idols. We went after the heathen women and married them and had bastard kids. We did all that, not the Most High. He didn't tell us to do that. We went off. All right, saints, go ahead and turn to the book of Hebrews chapter 8, and we're going to look at verse 8, and I will be reading this from the Sefer. It says, for finding fault with them, he says, behold, the days come, says Yahuwah, when I will make a renewed covenant, not a new, a renewed covenant. Now in the King James Version, it says new, but it was never new. It's the same covenant. The only difference is that Hamashiach became the sacrificial lamb. It says renewed covenant because everything else still stands. With the house of Yasharel or Israel, the northern kingdom, and with the house of Yehuda or Judah, the southern kingdom. Remember we talked about in the last lesson the splitting of the splitting of the 12 tribes to the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. Now watch this, because watch verse 9 very closely. This is why it's the same covenant, but new generation. It says, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Mitzrayim or Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant. And a covenant is an agreement. All right. So it was that generation who defiled the covenant, not this generation. This generation now, he's confirming the covenant with us, Zion. That's what's happening. We're the new generation. They're the old generation. They're our forefathers. We're here because of the result of their wickedness. And what we're going through is the result of them. So it says, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Mitzrayim, because they continue not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, says Yahuwah. Now let's go back up to verse 8, because I want to bring out something here, and then we're going to go to Ezekiel chapter 20, because I'm going to show you the covenant he's going to make again. I mean, that's going to be the new covenant when he makes it with us in the wilderness. And I'm going to show you proof of that. So let's look at 8 again. It says, for finding fault with them, he says, behold, the days come in our time, says Yahuwah, I will make a renewed covenant. Now, I want you to get something, Zion. I want you to really think about something. When did this awakening really started taking off? I don't know if y'all noticed, but around 2012, that's when I really noticed people starting to really, really wake up. Now, I know it was happening way before, even in the 60s, but it wasn't as rapid as we're seeing it right now, okay? So 2012 was like the spark of just this awakening through the Spirit of the Most High, through the Ruach of the Most High. And that is that renewed. He renewed this covenant through his Ruach, through his Spirit, through the awakening in our generation. Now hold your finger here for a minute, because I want to show you something. Go to John 6:63. John 6:63. It says, it is the Spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profited nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. That's exactly what's happening, Zion. And I truly believe somewhere around 2012, it's like the Most High just poured his Spirit upon our people, and they just started waking up like crazy, and it's never stopped, non-stop. And, you know, I'm not saying that 2012 was the year that it really began, but it just felt like that, you know, because prior to that, you didn't really hear about many people really in this truth like you do now. So that's how you know the Ruach is really, really working, Zion. So now let's go back to Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 8. So let's look at, I'm going to read it. I'll just start from the very beginning again. It says, for finding fault with them, he says, behold, the days come, says Yahuwah, when I will make a renewed covenant with the house of Yasharel, Israel, the northern kingdom, the scattered kingdom, and with the house of Yehuda or Judah, the southern kingdoms. So we are spread to the four corners of the earth. Where do you see heathens in this? You don't see that, Zion. Only the house of Israel and Judah, the northern and southern scattered tribes, because we are all scattered now. We are scattered to the four corners. But we're going to get even deeper. We're going to take it a step higher, Zion. so that you will be without a shadow of a doubt that when Hamashiach came on the scene, Paul and the apostles, you will have no doubt in your mind that they were directly ministering to our people and none else. So what I want to do now is go ahead and show you from the scriptures that the Most High indeed will make a new covenant with his people. And the thing about this covenant is that when he makes it with us, we're going to be all together. It ain't going to be no southern or northern scattered tribes. We're going to all be together. So go ahead and turn to the book of Ezekiel chapter 20. And let's start with verse 34. And it says, "And I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out." Now, this has not happened yet, Zion. That's why I know that this is talking about the future. We ain't seen the true wrath of the Most High on this place. We haven't. And trust me, when we see the true wrath of the Most High, the whole world is going to know it. But before that happens, a lot of these things have to take place. The persecution is going to have to come upon us. We're going to have to go through it, Zion. So we have a ways to go, and we ain't seen nothing yet. Let's look at verse 35. "And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face." And when the Most High pleads with his people, it's not a good feeling, because there's going to be some pain and suffering involved. There's going to be some purging. All right, look at verse 36. It says, "Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Ephraim, from out Egypt, so will I plead with you, says Adonai Yahuwah." Verse 37. This is the point that I want you to see right here. Talking about the covenant that the Most High, an everlasting covenant that the Most High is going to make with us. It says, verse 37, "And I will cause you to pass under the rod." What is a rod used for? The Most High said he's going to rule. He's going to rule with the rod of iron. A rod is used for correction. You ever heard of the shepherd's rod? A rod that the shepherds use for correction, for measuring, for beating, what have you. But it's going to be used for correction. And it says, "I will bring you into the bond of the covenant." What is a covenant? An agreement. And this is this covenant that the Most High only makes with his people. Remember, we just read in Hebrews chapter 8, verse 8, that he will renew the covenant in our time, this generation, with Israel and Judah. Well, who was Israel and Judah? The southern and northern scattered tribes. I mean, it makes really sense in Zion. It doesn't take a lot to figure this out. We just have to put the pieces together. Search the word like hidden treasures. That's what we got to do. We just can't read surface. You got to dig. You got to study precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Now let's look at verse 38. And it says, "And I will purge out from among you the rebels." Now this is the part right here where the Most High is going to clean house. "And them that transgress against me, I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Yasharel, and ye shall know that I am Yahuwah." So as we came out of Egypt, there was probably like close to 2 million. I know it was like 800,000, but that wouldn't include women and children. So there were a lot of our forefathers that came out of Egypt. And can you imagine them wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, and the Most High had to destroy a lot of them because a lot of them were so wicked and deceitful, and it took 4 generations before they crossed over to Jordan. That's something. And so, here we are repeating the same thing, and the Most High is going to do his cleansing. But the point I wanted to make with you on this is to show you the Most High will make a new covenant with his people when we're all together, but we're going to be all together. Now, before we get into some of the locations of the northern lost scattered tribe, go ahead and turn back to John chapter 10 and verse 16. John 10:16, because I want to bring something else out here. And this verse should be even more clearer to you now after going through the scriptures we went through. So let's just read that again. It says, and other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. So this should be clear that this is talking about the lost scattered tribe that Hamashiach, Paul, and the apostles were ministering to. Now go to Matthew chapter 18 and 11. I want to show you something here. Matthew 18:11, where it says, for the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost. So remember when he said, I have sheep not of this fold, he's talking about sheep, because he's comparing sheep to our people. Our people are always considered as sheep. And then when you read this verse, it starts to make more sense. When it says, for the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost. But I'm going to tell you something, Zion. Do you know that you would not find Matthew 18:11 in the NIV? Did y'all know that? Go try it out. Pull up. If you got an app on your phone, go to the NIV and try pulling up Matthew 18:11. It's missing. It's been completely taken out. You want to know why it's been completely taken out? Because it points to the true people of the Most High, the real Israelites. The Negroes scattered to the four corners. They don't want you seeing that stuff. They don't want you to see that. So they have taken it completely out of the NIV. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. But no matter what they do, Zion, they are not going to hide the truth. They can't and will never be able to. Now go ahead and turn to Matthew chapter 15 and 24, because Matthew 15 and 24 is a strong witness to Matthew 18:11, which you would not find in the NIV. And there's some other versions you won't see it in either. So Matthew 15:24 says, but he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Remember, there's that key word, sheep. It's clear, Zion. You cannot get around this. And you got our people trying to squeeze the heathens in on the low. I don't know what's up with our people, but they cannot detach from these heathens. They got to always include heathens. Well, what about the heathens? What about them? What about them? The Most High only came for his people. Let the dead worry about the dead. So just a good note here, Zion. Just pay attention to what's going on. Study these scriptures. Dig, compare. That's what we got to do. All right, saints, go ahead and turn your Bibles back to 1 Peter chapter 1. And we're going to look at verse 1, because we're going to go ahead and get into the locations of where the northern tribes were scattered throughout. So let's start with the last part of this verse, where it says, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus. And by now, you ought to know what's going on here. So to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus. So where is modern day Pontus? All right. So if you look that up and you look in the coordinates, you look in the Bible dictionary, you will see that it's in the Black Sea region of Turkey. Amazing, isn't it? In that area. And by the way, these locations I'm going to give you, Zion, this is going to be a dagger to this lion European chart that these camps are pushing, because they claim that the northern tribes came over during the Assyrian captivity, which is a bold lie, because that chart came out of a man's dream. Man worship stuff. But modern day Pontus will be in the Black Sea region of Turkey. And look it up for yourself. I'm telling you the facts. All right. These are some of the places that Paul traveled to. All right. So now let's look at Galatia. So Galatia will be located also in the region of Turkey. And so when you look at this map, and again, you can look at this stuff yourself, and all these different locations you're going to see. And we're going to go, after this, we're going to go to Isaiah 11:11, and I'm going to show you again the places that the northern tribes are scattered throughout. And if you read the book of Acts all through the New Testament, you're going to see that those same locations were the locations that Hamashiach, Paul, and the apostles traveled to reach our brothers and sisters. Plain as day. And so when you look at Cappadocia, also is located in what is known as the Turkey region. Asia, and I know Asia is like the Iraq, what is called Iraq today, in that area is very interesting. And you can look up Bithynia, Zion, just look it up. This is what you got to do. And we can't just depend on someone just to give us stuff and we just read it, because how many of our people read this and they don't even take in consideration to even look up these places? What are the modern day places? And so our people were scattered throughout those regions. And when you read the book of Acts, like I stated in the beginning, you will see those different locations and look them up. And you will see exactly that they match up with Isaiah 11:11. I mean, it is amazing, Zion. And you're not going to find nowhere in the scriptures where Hamashiach, Paul, and the apostles came to America, because our people wasn't over here. They were scattered throughout parts of Africa, what is known as the Middle East, and the Mediterranean islands, or the sea. That's where they were, and that's where they are today. When the Most High gathers them, let me prove it to you. Go to the book of Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 11. And it says, "And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahuwah shall set his hand again the second time." What does that mean, the second time? That means when he comes back to gather his people. The second time, to recover the remnant of his people, which be left from Assyria. Go look up that location. Look up the modern day location of Assyria. And from Egypt, y'all should know where that is. And from Pathros, type in and go look up the modern day area and location of this place. And from Cush and from Elam, again, look up that word. Look up the modern day location of Elam. And from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. That's the Turkey region as well too. So Zion, all it takes is just some digging on our part. And this is evident where the northern tribes are scattered to. The northern tribes were not in the Americas during Hamashiach's and Paul and the apostles' time. And I showed you evidence of where these locations are that they went to minister, Zion. I mean, come on. I mean, it really doesn't take a rocket scientist. But yet, these camps would rather go to these heathens' books and get all these lies and try to implant it into the scriptures. Yeah, it's not going to work, Zion. If you need more proof of where the northern tribes are going to be gathered from, go to Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 10. It says, "From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring mine offerings." So he's going to gather up his people, Zion. So the whole point in this lesson is was to show you the facts, show you that indeed the whole gospel was for the lost, scattered northern tribe. That's what the whole thing was about. Now, you didn't hear me mention Judah, Levi, and Benjamin as much, the southern tribes, the kingdoms, because they were already in Jerusalem. They were already the main ones who were still active. All right. And so they were the ones who were reaching out to the lost northern scattered tribes. Because, like I said earlier, you had a lot of our people in from the northern kingdom who were so far gone into idolatry that they were embedded with the Greeks. They were embedded with the Roman army. They were embedded with Rome. They were all over those regions. And you have Moors that were Israelites, and they didn't even know it because they were thinking that they were Muslims. You hear me, Zion? They were thinking they were Muslims. These were Moors, more Israelites. And they had no idea they were Israelites because they were so destroyed. And that's why our people become so confused, because when they're reading the New Testament, they don't understand that the wordings that Paul, Peter, and all the apostles' writings, they don't realize that it's talking about our people. So you have a lot of new believers that come in, a lot of black Christian brothers and sisters who are still caught up in Christianity, read that and just think that it's talking about everybody, but they have no idea what's going on because they don't have an understanding of the Old Testament. They don't have an understanding of the Southern Kingdom and the Northern Kingdom. They don't have an understanding on why and how the kingdom split. And so that's why you have to back up and go to the root, because the only way that you're going to get this, Zion, you have to be led of the Ruach. You have to be led of the Spirit and open your mind and be able to digest and to dissect this word, because it was given to us. That's why it's coded, because the Most High meant it that way so that we would only understand it, not the heathens. This was our book given to his people. So with that being said, Zion, I really pray that you are edified. I pray that this lesson has become more clearer than before. And this is a continuation from the last lesson I did called the New Testament Gentiles. And so I'm going to be doing a review, Zion. I'm going to be doing a review, my thoughts on the New Jersey shooting and anti-Semitism. I'm going to probably upload that tomorrow. So stay tuned for that, because that's going to be a very exciting one. I got some stuff to share with you. And so I'm going to give you my thoughts on that and what's going on and how that's going to affect us for the good and for the bad. So get your seatbelts, buckle up tight, because it's getting ready to be a roller coaster ride, Zion. I'm talking about one of monster roller coaster rides. So with that being said, Zion, I pray that you all will be blessed by this. And like I said, I enjoy my brothers and sisters, my Hebrew brothers and sisters. So just stay strong, keep on pushing forward. So I say shalom and stay strong.
Here's the patient of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of the Yah and the faith of the Mashiach. Yo, yeah, whoa. I'm here to encourage you, brothers and sisters, trying to paint to you a better picture. Everything I say, I back it up with the scriptures to get you out the matrix. It's been over 400 years of life. You gotta open up your eyes, 'cause there's so many reasons we in captivity. You gotta flee from the heathens. There is hope in our future, even though they trying to do us in. But we live to fight another day. Vengeance is Yah. We'll be praying for Yahuwah's day. I gotta thank Yahuwah for being the chosen seed of Israel. Here's the patience of the saints. Whoa. Here are they that keep the commandments of the Yah, and the faith of Mashiach. Oh, whoa, whoa, yeah, yeah. I gotta thank Yahuwah for being the chosen seed of Israel. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of the Yah and the faith of the Mashiach. Oh, whoa, hey, hey, whoa, whoa. Do, do, da, da, da. Do, be, do, be, do, be, do, da, da. Do, be, do, 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 da, da. Do, 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 da, do. Be, do, da, do, 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 da, 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 da. Do, be, do, be.